Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains is the most disappointing series since Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. This thing was supposed to bring Yu-Gi-Oh! back from the incomprehensible cliff of the Yuya Gangbang into the 5Ds flavored, serious, important Yu-Gi-Oh! They even played meta decks like all those losers on Twitter wanted, but the end result was as bad as it could possibly be. Repeated footage, agonizing recap episodes. They circumcised the whole third season. And just like my own circumcision, it probably should have been canceled. Or at least done better. So where do I begin? I don't know. It's hard to talk about this show in anything other than generalities, because the second you scrutinize the writing, animation, characters, pacing, motivations, storyline, duels, or Spectre, you just want to hand yourself over to the Ignis. Here you go, Grok. Make it quick.
Okay, let's talk about Vrains. Vrains is the 6th Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, and it's such a mixed bag. Hot off the heels of what can only be described as a generational embarrassment in Arc 5, Studio Gallop and Konami were in need of a win, foregoing the MCU-style dimension hopping and alien invasions of the past two series for something more down-to-earth, explaining Baudrillardian concepts to 11-year-olds. Welcome to the desert of the real, Timmy! I swear to God I'm trying to come up with novel interpretations of this stuff, but these days it's all just coming back Baudrillard. It's like I'm Chuck Mangione in King of the Hill. This show was written, produced, and directed in hyper-reality. It's about VR, it's about the philosophical distance between yourself and your one-to-one online manifestation, it's about creation, a psyche uploaded to a machine, it's about two people constructed from the same memories, it purports to mirror the duels you'd experience in reality but can't help tainting them with little drops of nostalgia. There's an arc where they build a second Vrains on top of the first Vrains. Bowman, more like Borges! I'm normal. The end result was a show that was simultaneously trying to be a commercial for toys, a treatise on human instrumentality, and a pathetic, sniveling plea that things could be like they were in 2002 again. It was plagued by cost overruns, directorial swaps, and general disinterest. After its conclusion, Yu-Gi-Oh's anime changed studios and started focusing on the supplementary product of Rush Duel. But as rough and unfinished as the end product was, I can't help but ruminate on it. It was so close to something interesting. It came right up to the edge of asking questions that mattered. Reality reflects this. There's like hundreds upon hundreds of Stan accounts and online communities dedicated to these completely flat characters, supplanted by the secretly well-written versions of themselves that exist in the minds of the fans. So today, if only to get my own Playmaker tulpa out of my head, I want to talk to you about Vrains. Video essay, looks inside, summary. Listen, I'm just gonna have to give you a rundown on Vrains' story if we're gonna get anywhere here. Vrains follows the story of Yusaku Fujiki, a stoic young man who lives a double life. In his day-to-day, he's an unremarkable schoolboy, but in the virtual reality world of Link Vrains, he's the #1 duelist, Playmaker. Link Vrains provides players with immense opportunity for popularity, with influencers like Blue Angel and George Gore, I'm calling him Go Onizuka, fuck off, embracing their inner theater kid to really put on a show for the crowd. Playmaker is no exception. While in real life, he's just a broody weirdo, in Vrains he's the death-defying, always exciting, no, he's just exactly the same weird loser. Most of Playmaker's time in Vrains is spent dueling the Knights of Hanoi, a mysterious group of duelists that seek to destroy Vrains for a sinister, unexplained reason. One day, Playmaker learns that Soul Technologies, one of those everything corps, is scouring Vrains for an artificial life form. In partnership with a hot dog vendor, Playmaker finds the life form, an Ignis named AI. Now on the run from both the Knights of Hanoi and Soul Technologies, Playmaker has to basically duel all the characters in the show in a line. Get used to this because it happens pretty often. This includes entertainment duelists Go Onizuka and Blue Angel, Tin Dangler and high-up Soul exec and stepbro Akira Zaizen, Emma Besho, or Ghost Girl, a hacker for hire, Spectre, a weird incel freak, and Varus, the one interesting character. In this sequence, Spectre hands Blue Angel an evil card, and when she uses it, she goes into a coma, which Playmaker has to duel Varus to get her out of, I guess. The Varus duel, for me, me, is a turning point in the series. This, like, 4-part duel is really good, and importantly, effectively communicates that Varys is fucking insane at Yu-Gi-Oh! The trading card game. It's strong enough duel writing that I was really excited for what came afterwards. Anyway, what came afterwards was a clip show. Get used to that too. After that's done, Ghost Girl dangles a key to Soul's database in front of Playmaker, and we get the first smidgen of a motivation from the guy. Turns out 10 years ago, there was this occurrence where 6 kids were kidnapped for months. Playmaker wins, uses the back door, then confronts Akira about the incident into, oh god, another clip show, this time with interludes where Ai tries to give Yusaku's Roomba sentience. That's real, by the way. We're given our first information here about the Lost Incident. Years ago, Yusaku and 5 other children were kidnapped and forced to duel wearing VR gear for food. It's revealed they were sharpening the training data for what would become the Ignises, dueling AIs with free will, smarter than any single duelist. Next up, 3 Knights of Hanoi, Dr. Genome, Baria, and Faust create a virus that prevents you from logging out of Vrains, leaving like 1,000 people in comas. Moving on. After this is the best duel in the series, where Brave Max, a jobber who uses his proximity to Playmaker to seem cool, bricks against a Knight of Hanoi. Then a clip show. Finally, we've made it to the last arc of the first season, the Tower of Hanoi. A tower shows up in Vrains, and wouldn't you know it, we gotta beat those characters in a line again before the tower is completed. Turns out the tower was constructed by one Dr. Kogami, the architect behind the Lost Incident, who has been legally dead for 7 years. Kogami shows up and explains that he lives on through Vrains while his son, Varys, takes care of his dying body. Okay, now for a clip show. Spectre reveals he was also a victim of the Lost Incident, beats Blue Angel, and then is beaten by Playmaker. Go Onizuka gets clapped by Varys, and then like a 45-part Varys and Playmaker duel that's just so fucking good. These Varys duels are the obvious highlight of the series. Varys makes a U-Link with every Boral, gets Playmaker down to 1 card, Playmaker shows emotion for the first time this series. After winning, the Tower of Hanoi is destroyed, and Playmaker has returned peace to the galaxy. That's the first season. Here's the second. After the Tower of Hanoi fucked up Vrains, Soul Technologies decides if Link Vrains is so good, they should just make Link Vrains too. Ai fucks off to his cyber home, the Cyberse world, but returns when he realizes it's been completely destroyed, and the other 6 Ignis that resulted from the Lost Incident are missing. Playmaker is still a wanted man, and this time is chased by the just exhausting Blood Shepherd, Emma's brother, and fucking miserable ass character. Look at this guy. Playmaker eventually has to show himself after a being of pure light energy steals the hot dog guy's brother's consciousness. Don't worry, this will make sense later. Playmaker tracks down the assailant and finds a mysterious duelist named Bowman. It's at this point in the story that Soulburner appears. Soulburner is one of those characters where you cannot believe he wasn't in the original cast because he's just so good. Where Playmaker is calm and calculated, Soulburner is passionate and interesting. Alongside Soulburner fights his Ignis, Flame, created from his dueling data during the Lost Incident. The two of them team up and find the other Ignises, which leads them to Windy, an Ignis who's a bit of an asshole. While on a fetch quest for Windy, Playmaker runs into Bowman again, whose mind has been wiped and warped. He now claims he is also a Lost Incident victim, and that his data was used for the Dark Ignis, Ai. Playmaker goes, "No, that's me?" And Bowman goes, "That's right, I'm Playmaker. At some point during the Lost Incident, the machine sprouted a consciousness. I'm human, and you're an artificial clone." Which is like, just an amazing thing to lie about. Anyway, Playmaker just barely wins, and now a clip show. What follows is like 18 duels that don't matter, including episode 61, my favorite episode of the show, which we'll talk about later. Our heroes track down the Earth Ignis, who's generally a pretty chill guy. He and his beloved Water Ignis, Aqua, realize that sides are being drawn in an upcoming war for the future of AI and humanity. It's become increasingly clear that organizations like the Hanoi intend to kill them, and that they won't stop trying. While this is happening, Ai and Playmaker's Roomba, Robopi, get obsessed with a message board, eventually learning it contains a secret message to Ai. Ai follows a hidden passage and meets the Light Ignis, who is racist. He's already made a decision about the coming war, and intends to kill all of humanity alongside Windy. Playmaker appears and he and Ai are captured. Then Varys shows up. Another banger-ass, boss-ass Varys duel ends in him literally killing Windy after Windy reveals he Tesla driverless card his associated Lost Incident human off a cliff. Lightning bails Windy out at the last second, revealing his associated Lost Incident human was the hot dog guy's brother, whom he now puppets, and that he was the one who nearly killed Varys' father. Then Bowman comes back. It's revealed that Bowman and a bunch of other jobbers are actually attempts at artificial intelligence created by lightning, and that Bowman's consistently increasing skill is a result of his capacity to learn. He describes the relationship between humans and Ignis as one of subjugation, and challenges Playmaker to a duel for Ai. They draw. Ooh. Boo! Meanwhile, Go Onizuka, yes, he's still around, is having a crisis because he's washed. Tasked with capturing the Ignis by Soul Technologies, he defeats Earth and, I am not kidding here, kills him in a several-minute torture sequence, finally injecting him into himself to get better at playing Dino Wrestlers. Meanwhile, the Water Ignis meets up with Blue Angel. Now, I know what you're thinking. We've got almost all the Lost Incident kids, Water and Earth, we've got a Water and Earth duelist. So it's no surprise the Water Ignis was made by Blue Angel's friend that we're just now hearing about for the first time. Anyway, everyone teams up to go beat Lightning and Team Kill All Humans. Lightning beats Spectre after he overextends, Soulburner beats Windy. Bowman claims to have ascended to a being beyond the Ignis and starts battling everyone who has one to absorb them into himself, starting with Blue Angel. He gets her, then Soulburner. Varys makes a break for Lightning, and after a dominant performance, Lightning demands Varys stop or he'll erase his partner's data. Varys stands down and Lightning wins, but after seeing how underhanded Lightning was, Bowman kills him himself and absorbs his data. Now imbued with every Ignis but he challenges Playmaker as the ultimate life form. This duel sucks. The world building is really good. Bowman starts absorbing the data of all the duelists in Link Vrains 2, becoming a hybrid ultra-intelligence with complete knowledge of humanity and the calculative power to shape the world. Then he plays a bunch of shit cards that do nothing. Sneaks into Bowman's consciousness and speaks with the other AIs, all of whom entrust their hope to Playmaker, who wins, killing Bowman and all the Ignis and freeing his friends. Okay, third season. So there's a pretty obvious setup here, right? The other Ignis are missing, presumed dead. Misses them greatly. You'd expect the last season is about finding them and learning to live in harmony, right? No, they stay dead. Earth really was crushed up into a powder so Go Onizuka could snort him. Instead, the third season is like 12 episodes long. Soul Technologies releases that humanoid robot that Tesla keeps promising, and two such robots break into the CEO's house and duel her for control of the company. Those two are revealed to be who now looks like a BL protagonist, and Robopi, Playmaker's Roomba that gave sentience. See, spent so long mourning that he decided Lightning was actually right, and that he needed to kill all humans. Yes, really. That's the plot of Season 3. Everyone fucking fights in a line. The Knights of Hanoi, the anti-AI terrorists, have created an AI for some fucking reason, and he beats that too. Soulburner duels Robopi, who over the course of the duel starts gaining intellect exponentially and becomes genocidal before he overloads his circuitry and reverts to a Roomba. Soulburner and Varys have a duel that's probably the best in the series. Then now in control of Soul Technologies, prepares to unleash a clone army of soul robots unless Playmaker beats him in a duel, and Playmaker does, killing Or did he? And that's Vrains. Now we can talk about it. Here's the most surface level critique I have, but it's unfortunately necessary to understand everything that comes next. Vrains has a schedule I can only describe as clearly masking something evil going on. This has been beaten to death by a dozen other smarter channels, so I won't belabor the point here, but we know enough about staffing changes to know, man, they were really hoping Atem was gonna laser down from the afterlife like the end of DSOD and animate this thing for them. Speaking of DSOD, the studio responsible for DSOD was also responsible for Vrains and Arc V, both of which were at least somewhat in production at the same time as Vrains. This studio was stretched extremely thin, and it shows. Here's an example. Early in the show, to give a visual representation of Link summoning, Playmaker goes into the Link Gate, a liminal space in which he announces the arrows and material of a monster before breaking out of the gate with the monster he summons. This is cool the first time he does it, but pretty immediately it's revealed to be a cost-saving measure. It's super easy to just reuse the same footage of him going into the gate and declaring materials over and over with new arrows. This problem is compounded by the fact that Playmaker is playing, for all intents and purposes, a Link spam deck. Before its last appearances, there are some sequences where he hops into the gate 3 or 4 times to make a Link Spider into a Link 2 into a Link 3. It's totally blatant. On the topic of blatant cost saving, oh boy, the clip shows. These are most prevalent in the first season, but man, they are egregious. There are a ton of clip shows at critical points in the storyline, many of which buttress 4 total episodes before we hop back into a clip show. It got so bad the director had to hop on Twitter and apologize for the pace of the anime, including the promise that more clip shows would be needed for cost-saving purposes. Right, directors. 14 episodes in, the series changed directors. I'm not familiar enough with Japanese animation models to say anything definitive about this, but it certainly helps explain why so many early plot points are just wholeheartedly ignored by the end of the series. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the cheapness of the third season. Firstly, why is it 13 episodes long? Secondly, the animation, music, and sound effect quality start tanking around this period. There are some sequences with Playmaker and Blue Angel that are laughable. So, with the elephant in the room successfully addressed, this was a slapdash production that was clearly struggling. Let's talk about some more fundamental reasons I disliked the series. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Might not be a good medium to tell stories anymore. Back in Duel Monsters, duels served a very different purpose than they do today. DM was a story largely about characters in conflict. The heroic and noble Atem and his naive partner with a heart of gold. The calculating, frustrated, cocky fuck Kaiba. Even the side characters, the conniving Bandit Keith, the masochistic Panic. You got a sense for guys who appeared for one episode. The anime accomplishes this feat through duels. The monsters in a duel are mostly pretty unremarkable. Like, what does Hitatsumi Giant tell you about Kaiba? Instead, the way in which duelists play ends up being more illustrative of their character. Panic takes delight in frightening his opponent. Weevil is an underhanded, sniveling fuck who sneaks cards into decks. Bandit Keith just straight up cheats. The duel is a mechanism to get insight into their character. Their plays show you what kind of person they are. This is true for most of the series, with a caveat that as archetypes became more prevalent in GX, frequently the deck a player showed up with was their personality. The warrior lady plays Amazons, obviously. This is a little bit of a change on DM's formula, but it still works. There's an inarguable connection between one's personhood and their choice of deck. But by Vrains, that's pretty much fallen apart. The characters in Vrains play meta strategies. Playmaker plays Code Talker, Varus plays Borreload, Blue Angel plays Trickstar and Marincess, Spectre plays Sun Avalon, Ghost Girl plays Altergeist, Go Onizuka plays Goki, then Dino Wrestler. Okay, they're not all going to be winners, but because they all play these new meta strategies, their decks butt heads at the pace of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Playmaker does 5-minute setup turns. Blue Angel FTKs people with Trickstar. Spectre takes 15 minutes to set up a Sun Avalon combo. Ghost Girl legitimately goes Imper Multi-Faker in one of her games. This means huge parts of every episode with a duel in them are spent not doing banter or back and forth or character work, but explaining a setup turn. Sure, they're playing cards you might see at locals, but the trade-off is you just get so much less time with the duelists, which makes them feel so much less interesting. This also leads to a weird disconnect between the duelists and their decks. Unlike DM, there's just not that much time to get insight into the duelists as players during the games, and unlike GX, there's mostly nothing we can infer from their strategies. Jaden plays hero because he's heroic. What does Armatos Legio communicate to you about an individual's motivations? Brave Max is on like a green baboon loop deck. Why? When Pegasus stops playing tunes and goes in on Relinquished, it symbolizes him dropping the facade, revealing even without gimmicks and tricks, he's a horrifying opponent. When Go Onizuka stops playing Goki and starts playing Dino Wrestlers, what does that communicate? That he's developed a different taste in wrestling agencies? To be fair, there are times when this is done well. Blood Shepherd plays a no negation deck to counter his sister's Altergeist strategy, which exemplifies his feelings of inadequacy. Earth's got Crystal Heart, symbolizing his bond with Aqua, and protects it at the cost of his own monsters. Spectre is a freaky show-off, so Sun Avalon makes sense as a wombo combo deck. The moment when he overextends and loses as a result is really good, but they're so few and far between. Akira plays Tindangles. Why? Queen plays Allure Queen. Is it because they both have Queen in the name? What the fuck is a high drive? To me, this is a huge reason why the new Yu-Gi-Oh! Series is about Rush. Both players just get to do more in Rush. Their turns don't last too long, their cards don't have too much text on them, there's more room to riff, and there's more opportunities to do it. I've taken issue with Yu-Gi boomers who are quick to condemn the pace of play in modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, but I will agree, it certainly trades off with the ability to tell a compelling story. One of the things that frustrates me about the lack of characterization in Vrains is that there just aren't that many characters in the first place. The only characters that end up mattering are Yusaku, Blue Angel, Go Onizuka, Varus, Spectre, Ghost Girl, Soulburner, Akira, Blood Shepherd, the Hot Dog Guy, Bowman, and the Ignis. We're talking about a cast of like a dozen. We spend a lot of time with each of them, but because of the issues mentioned above, it's not like we really get a sense for them in the way that we would a Joey, or a Yubel, or a Crow, or a Shark. Even with such a paltry cast, each character is used in really frustrating ways constantly. So here's some of those ways. Firstly, and this isn't going to be news for anyone familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, the women are treated absolutely fucking awful. Since forever, Yu-Gi-Oh's been allergic to having women win on screen, but Vrains really takes it to another level. Blue Angel is enough of the main cast that she has a dozen duels, and most of the men the exact same way. Ghost Girl's got a half dozen, and she loses every single one but the one against a gag character. Blue Angel is constantly being thrown around as a character to hurt hurt in order to motivate the other characters. She's in a coma, she's almost killed, but it feels particularly egregious to consistently do it while the series continues. Character-wise, she starts going through a coming-of-age arc where she learns to be independent and matures from Blue Angel to Blue Lady. On one hand, you've got a hackneyed attempt at giving a woman character some kind of agency, but on the other hand, she's pretty much exclusively being tossed around for other people to get mad at. Secondly, a significant amount of the characters are just boring. Playmaker, Blue Angel, Akira, Shepard, Bowman, half the Ignis, mostly Ghost Girl. A lot of what they do is walk from point A to point B and then describe what's happening. The dialogue, especially early, was so stilted and matter-of-fact, it became a popular theory that Playmaker was autistic, that his unwillingness to emote and three-step solution was just Yu-Gi-Oh! Throwing a bone to representation politics. I want to be clear. If you're autistic and found meaning or purchase in this headcanon, more power to you. But the main character emotes so infrequently there's got to be something else going on is a rough place for a show. A lot of the total lack of characterization in the show is a compounding problem with the one above. So much screen time for everyone is dedicated to showing a stupid fucking setup combo that there are only so few moments of levity. Outside of Brave Max and a couple of scenes with the hot dog guy, characters are so engrossed in the plot at any given time that there's no room to breathe. I saw a comment online that I really appreciated. As much as people complain about filler in anime, damn, this anime could have used some filler. Soulburner and Playmaker were both victims of the Lost incident, and they coped with it in exactly opposite ways. For Playmaker, time stopped, and for Soulburner, his life began. Would it have killed them to talk about it in anything more than passing? Playmaker has this weird quasi-relationship with Blue Angel in season 3. Could we have gotten them to go somewhere together? Build that foundation? Why not do a Knights of Hanoi beach episode? Without these mundane human moments, so many of these characters feel like cardboard cutouts in an RPG you're moving around to imagine different combinations of battles. Not like people with thoughts and emotions. I should be clear, I don't hate everything that's done with these characters. I do really like what's done with Soulburner. He's a lovable, passionate, excited duelist, but there's also care taken to remind you that he has the same traumatic past as Playmaker. He's just dealt with it differently. There's an incredible moment that really shows off how both his life has changed since the Lost incident and how he's healed. Prior to a duel, Blood Shepard kidnaps Flame, who has a complete repository of Soulburner's memories. He sees one in which he loses a duel to a Despair from the Dark and has a panic attack. Thinking this could cheese him a win, Blood Shepard completely refigures his deck to basically turbo out Despair from the Dark, a shit tier card, in a duel against Soulburner, only for Soulburner to reveal that he's conquered his fear years ago, and Flame showed Blood Shepard that memory on purpose to trick him into making his deck shittier. It's awesome. His final confrontation with Varys is, in essence, an ideological battle about the consequences of the Lost incident, and it's probably the best thing in the show. On that note, Varys is incredibly interesting. The single harmonious thread where the duel writing actually matches the characterization is in this character. His entire team places their utmost faith in him when he duels, not just because they're friends, but because they know he'll win. The writing does an unbelievable job of making you think, wow, this guy is really fucking good at Yu-Gi-Oh! The Windy duel, the Tower of Hanoi duel, the Soulburner duel, they're all just incredible. So incredible that ratings for the show while it was airing basically ebbed and flowed based on if Varys was dueling or not. To me, this almost makes me feel worse. To know that care can be taken with these characters, that they could be expressed and evolve in interesting, dynamic ways, and then to watch them all forced into the same expressionless mold to move the plot along, it's truly irritating. But the characters pale in comparison to the story. The story of Vrains is supremely frustrating. It comes so painfully close to saying something poignant, but lands with all the subtlety of a Tenpai combo. Let's get into it. As an introduction to this discussion, let's lead with a force multiplier. There's like a 70% chance any arc is just going to end up as a boss rush. I really can't overstate how many arcs just devolve into boss rushes. Like, as a prerequisite for moving on, you need to see Go Onizuka duel, a Blue Angel duel, a Soulburner duel, a Varys duel, and then about 16 Playmaker duels. You could set your watch to this. I remember when I was viewing the series in real time, I could easily predict what the rest of the episodes in an arc would be based on what characters hadn't dueled yet. Like I described before, the cast in the show is extremely small. So you're seeing similar duels with the exact same people over over and over and over again. The one-off characters, as much as they exist, are largely just the same thing over and over again. Either exactly Knights of Hanoi or exactly AIs created by Lightning and Soul Technologies. On that note, let's talk about Soul Technologies. The first time you see Soul, the C-Class is represented as a series of chess pieces on a board, with the mysterious Queen implied to be the final boss of this shadowy organization. I just sort of assumed, based on how Soul Technologies was described in the first season, that a significant amount of the story would be about subverting the will of this everything corporation. It's cast pretty early on as an antagonist. It's leading the eye chase, it wants Playmaker gone, but sometime around the second season, it just sort of evaporates. Many have speculated this is the result of Vrains' troubled development cycle, but I'm not exaggerating when I say Soul Technology's importance basically vanishes overnight. The C-Class isn't really brought up again, they're absolved of the Lost Incident and Kogami's death by Lightning, and Queen loses a duel and control of the company in like 10 minutes. By the end of the series, they're just a useful set piece, creating the robots that I intends to use to wipe out humanity. Why is this evil megacorp let off the hook? They literally killed Earth! They sent bounty hunters after Playmaker, and God knows why they did that, because he was the only guy stopping the Hanoi from destroying their flagship product. On the topic of Hanoi, so much of the show relies on Hanoi keeping their word. Hanoi is an organization with an explicit goal, the destruction of the Ignis. They believe, correctly when it comes to Lightning and Windy, that the continued coexistence with the Ignis will necessarily cause the extinction of the human race. To accomplish this goal, they invent a plague that causes thousands to slip into comas if they log into Vrains, and then they create a weapon of mass destruction. And several times in the series, they just stake their ability to save the future of humankind on the outcome of a totally avoidable duel. Like, listen, I understand this is a bit of a CinemaSins ding-ass criticism, but Spectre tricks Blue Angel into functionally killing herself. And then 5 duels later, we've got Varys talking about the honor of the Hanoi organization. Clearly, some of them are willing to do a ruse to save humankind. In other series, dueling was used to resolve conflicts because, well, it was a vehicle for shadow games. But in Vrains, there's no reason to use duels to resolve these philosophical conflicts. And there's no reason to keep your word if your organization has already made a habit of lying to people, and doing so will cause every human to die. Let's talk about the Lost Incident. A significant part of this series, especially season 1, concerns the Lost Incident, a scenario where 6 children are kidnapped and forced to duel as training data for the Ignis. One of the huge missed opportunities in this show is an exploration of how each child has dealt with it since. Playmaker and Soulburner have developed completely opposite coping strategies, and Spectre is like actually fucking insane. But that comparison never really happens, because 3 of the 6 Lost Incident victims are functionally just no-names. Jin is recovering from extreme trauma, which makes sense, but it also means he's not available for comment. Miyu is introduced as the Water Ignis describes her partner, and Windy's implied to have killed his partner off screen, though we never hear about who he was. Like the chess pieces, this just smacks of a plotline they got sick of, which is why it kind of ceases to matter pretty early. The second season's just absolutely full of these plot lines that go nowhere. We sit through like 10 minutes of Bowman trying to convince everybody he's the real Playmaker, only for Bowman's memory wipes to be revealed as just a weird trick that Lightning's doing. Arlen, Bowman's brother, tags along for most of the season, Mokuba style, but ends up playing a single duel with the same deck as Bowman and gets clapped. Earth fucking dies and doesn't come back. They build a Link Vrains on top of Link Vrains and collapse the Vrains into the Vrains, and it takes them like 3 seconds to move on. Why does the hot dog guy fight Playmaker? There is literally no reason for the hot dog guy to fight Playmaker. Season 3 is just the end of the plot trying to keep up. For some reason, a single episode after trying to convince Lightning of his worldview, after proving without a shred of a doubt that his and Playmaker's philosophy was superior, I decides he's gonna be evil now. There's like really no reason for this to happen. They spin it as the trauma of losing his friends, but that sucks, right? He made the decision to oppose Lightning's plan because he disagreed with it on a fundamental level. Why make him backtrack? I've talked about it already, but the romance in season 3 is unbearable. They're trying to make something happen after forgetting to write Playmaker and Blue Angel as personable at all, let alone interested in each other. It's hopeless, man. The Knights of Hanoi, the organization wholeheartedly devoted to the eradication of thinking AI, make a thinking AI, Pandora, for like no reason. She duels once, loses, and they set her free. I thought this whole thing was about ensuring AI with free will are exterminated. They're gonna kill you! This 13-episode third season is the low point for the series. The Eye Boss Rush is a by-the-numbers sequence with scant motivation and exactly one interesting duel. Ultimately, even the stakes don't matter. Playmaker kills Eye to preserve humanity, then he pops up 3 seconds later. So, if Vrains was this rushed, its technical execution this bad, its storyline this muddled, and its characters this flat, why do people care about it? Despite all I've said before, I can't deny that I do find Vrains incredibly interesting. I watched the entire thing all the way through. I cared deeply about the outcome of the duels. I really appreciated the few character moments we got. And I'm not the only one. You just have to hop over to Twitter to see hundreds of people talking about their Blorbos, Soulburner, and I, and Varys. What gives? For me, it's that the show is so very close to saying something legitimately interesting. It's a very prescient story. Writing about the relationship between humans and AI seems obvious now, but in 2017 it was still very fantastical. The commentary about how Blue Angel acts in Vrains and outside of it is an incredible exploration of presentation as a concept. While surveilled by her fans in the fake world of Vrains, she's a boisterous crowd pleaser, but at home, when she is surveilled by her brother, she remains a shy shut-in. Her transition from Blue Girl to Blue Maiden is a transition on the part of a character she plays in Vrains, and her inability to reconcile that transformation with the woman she is in the real world could have been really excellent if it wasn't cut for explaining a Marincess combo. Bowman, as a character, rocks. His entire identity is constructed manually by lightning, and yet he's able to absorb uniquely human concepts like honor and dignity. Just as lightning purports to transcend the shackles of humanity, Bowman transcends the shackles of AI and represents a harmonious superbeing capable of sustaining omniscience with sapience. His speeches and call for instrumentality in Vrains World 2 are compelling. That's why it makes it so much stranger that I backtracks to lightning. Bowman is both a literal example lightning was wrong and presents a much more coherent worldview. It's hard to look at the state of the world in 2025 and not see immediate parallels between the everything corporation of Soul Technologies and the present moment, in which a small number of tech companies wield unbelievable power over our lives. Hell, one of them's even making the butler robots. It'd be really neat to see where that went if the thread wasn't dropped. In short, it's a show that's asking all the right questions, but just can't deliver on the answers. That's why it's kept me intrigued and frustrated since airing, and why it sticks in my mind so much more than a show like Zexal. So, those are my thoughts on Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, a show that represented the end of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Formula, that could not rankle with the fact that the strategic depth of the average duel had grown exponentially, and as a result produced an anime with poor characterization, a plotline made up as it went, a consistently miserable production pipeline, and an ending retconned seconds after it occurred. Despite this, it's been caught in my craw for the near decade since it aired, and its small but dedicated fanbase proves it really was onto something, even if that something never really manifested. As an epilogue, to supplement the slapdash and rushed conclusion, Duel Links, of all things, has been continuing the storyline of Vrains through its event structure, and the Ignis are revealed to have survived. It's frustrating to see Konami recognize the story wasn't finished after it finished, but to myself and the individuals who care about the series despite its flaws, it is a small comfort. What about you? Have you seen Vrains? What'd you think? Let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to see more videos like this one, let me know as well. They're a bitch to script, but I do like to make an effort to write something other than a TMT once every fiscal quarter. Otherwise, have a happy new year and download Duel Links.